China lied, people died. People died because China lied. 4.2 million people are dead. Why? Because China lied. And China is getting ready to lie all over again. Mainland China has been taken hostage by the Delta variant. COVID-19 cases are surging, and if history is any testimony, the situation is far worse than what the CCP wants us to believe. The people of China will once again suffer for no fault of theirs. They will lose their loved ones. They will be silenced, told to shut up. But it's just gone too far now. The CCP recently celebrated its 100th birthday, but if the indications are to be believed, this will certainly be its last. The Chinese people are fed up. Hi and welcome. This is TFI Global, the foreign affairs and geopolitical analysis arm of the TFI Media Group. I am your host Sanbir Anhotra, and in this video I will tell you how China is about to implode due to a crisis of its own invention. China has been exhibiting traits of Schadenfreude for a long time now. Especially after claiming a false victory over COVID-19 last year, China has been looking down on countries around the world still battling the pandemic, which was first reported out of China. The communist nation has touted itself as a role model for other countries on how to control the pandemic, although the free world order has shown little to no interest in learning anything from China. Rightfully so. Now, COVID-19 is back in China, and the Delta variant of coronavirus is ravaging the country's mainland. The country is now facing its most extensive outbreak since early last year. The spiraling of Delta variant COVID-19 cases in China can spell doom for the country. The Chinese Communist Party on July 1st celebrated 100 years of existence. That means it celebrated 100 years of brutalizing and tormenting ordinary Chinese citizens. Now, there is a good chance that the CCP will not be able to celebrate its next birthday and will be dumped in the trash can by the Chinese public in the next 1 year. There are multiple reasons why the CCP's fortunes can take a downward turn here on. The Delta variant is known to spread like wildfire. Already, mainland China seems engulfed with the new COVID-19 variant. Most previous outbreaks didn't spread far beyond a city or province. This time, cases have been confirmed in more than 35 cities in 17 of mainland China's 31 provinces and regions. While the total number of official cases is still in the hundreds, they are far more widespread than anything China has dealt with since the initial outbreak that devastated it in early 2020. A rattled China is now swooping in to force its citizens to undertake testing. Wuhan City will test its 12 million residents for the coronavirus after confirming its first domestic cases of the highly transmissible Delta variant. Several provinces and cities, including Beijing, are rushing to test millions of people. The flood-ravaged province of Henan is also battling a surge in cases. Zhengzhou, currently under lockdown after floods that killed hundreds of people, will carry out nucleic acid tests for all on the 1st, 4th and 7th days after the lockdown. China's National Health Commission, in its daily report on Tuesday, said that 61 new locally transmitted COVID-19 cases have been reported from different provinces, including Jiangsu, Hunan, Hubei, Henan, Yunnan besides Beijing, Shanghai and Fujian. On Wednesday, China reported an additional 71 COVID-19 infections. On the same day, China temporarily suspended issuing entry and exit documents for all non-essential and non-emergency travelers. Also, the local governments have advised citizens to not leave their regions unless there is an emergency. Additionally, all residents of flood and pandemic-hit Zhengzhou need to show a mandatory negative COVID test to leave the city. Nanjing and Yangzhou have suspended all domestic flights. The capital city of Beijing has suspended 13 rail lines and stopped all inbound long-distance ticket sales from 23 stations. China has failed. It failed last year as well and had to lie to its people and the world regarding its handling of the pandemic. After having claimed a false victory over the virus, the Chinese Communist Party went on a year-long rant to preach its model around the world, subtly telling the democratic world to learn from its successes. It must be remembered that China has fully vaccinated 40% of its population. Yet, if the CCP is now locking down entire cities, carrying out mandatory mass testing, banning travel, and engaging in a propaganda blitzkrieg, rest assured the situation is far worse than China wants anyone to believe. China will once again, in order to cover up the real extent of the damage being caused due to the Delta variant, be forced to lie and fudge data. But the Chinese people have had enough. They are being inoculated with vaccines that do not work. They are being forced into lockdowns. They are being forced to test repeatedly. They are being forced to pretend that everything is normal and under control, when in fact the pandemic continues to rage on in China. Chinese vaccines are proving to be a failure world over. In countries like the UAE, Chinese vaccines have proven useless, which is why third booster shots of mRNA vaccines or other non-Chinese doses have now been introduced. In the Philippines, the name of vaccines is being hidden from citizens so that they do not protest receiving the Chinese vaccine. During the vaccine trials as well, in countries like Turkey and Brazil, the Chinese candidates proved to be an unmitigated disaster. China was then, as expected, forced to fudge vaccine efficacy data to save face. Such has been the level of China's lies to its own people and the world that the country's top COVID-19 task force, constituted last year, did not have scientists. Instead, this task force, called the Central Leading Small Group for Work to Counter the New Coronavirus Infection Pneumonia Epidemic, had members of the CCP's Politburo or Central Committee, with an eerie composition of individuals with an expertise on propaganda. In any normal country, this task force would have been comprised of scientists and doctors. In China, it was comprised of CCP's propaganda experts, and Xi Jinping chose to stay away from the same in fear of not being seen as the poster boy of China's failure to handle the pandemic. The people of China know the CCP's modus operandi all too well. Therefore, now that the Delta variant is beginning to ravage China and will soon spread its tentacles across the mainland with scant regard for any urban or rural realities, a frustrated Chinese people will rise up against the CCP and oust it from power. In 1989, the CCP carried out a horrifying massacre of protesters at the famed Tiananmen Square. That uprising was crushed because it was largely focused around one area. What China has to potentially face now, however, is a nationwide uprising against the CCP, which will be impossible to subdue. This is going to ring the CCP's death knell, which has been having it too good for too long now.